Welcome to the Well-Oiled Mind, where we examine topics relating to history, biography, psychology, and philosophy. Today's video delves into the terrifying world of psychopathy. Specifically, how do we identify the psychopaths among us? And believe us when we tell you, the prevalence of these folks in your area is going to shock you. Also, watch all the way to the end so you can hear our killer factoid. Can you guess which U.S. state has the highest incidence of psychopathy? It might actually be easier than you think, and I wish I could say it'll blow your socks off, but I think you're probably going to say, yep, that makes sense. So, psychopathy, how bad is it? Well, according to Burton and Sala, in the U.S., about 1.2% of the adult population have clinically significant psychopathic traits. You're probably thinking, well, big deal. 1.2% is nothing. 1% of a dollar is just a penny after all. Well, we're not talking about pennies and dollars. Think about this. If you live in New York City, for example, and after we adjust for the non-adult population, the 1.2% factor means that on any given day, there are somewhere around 70,000 adults strolling around who present with psychopathic traits. Put differently, about 1 in every 100 adults you meet will have at least some psychopathic characteristics. And what's worse, some of those might be full-blown psychopaths. Well, let's follow up this awesome news with some things you can look for to identify someone with psychopathic traits. Most videos about psychopathy also talk about antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. There is a lot of interrelation between the three, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to just address psychopathy. After we get done with our list, you'll see why, because it's very, very exhaustive. First of all, what is psychopathy by definition? That's kind of the problem. It seems there's not actually 100% consensus in the medical community here. So, instead of giving you a definition, we think it's more instructive to use behavioral markers that you should be looking for. One way professionals try to identify psychopaths is by using a standardized tool called the PCLR, or Psychopathy Checklist Revised, developed by Canadian researcher Dr. Robert Hare. The PCLR rates 20 items or characteristics. Each is scored on a 3-point scale. 0 means the item is not present, 1 means it is somewhat present, and 2 means it is significant. Serial killer Ted Bundy, for example, allegedly scored 39 out of 40 on the test. The big takeaway here is that psychopathy is like golf. Low scores are way better. Okay, so here are the 20 key warning signs to watch out for if you are trying to figure out if your new significant other is a psychopath or not. Number 1, superficial charm. They might say all the right things, but it still doesn't feel authentic. Think of somebody here that's just trying way too hard. Number 2, grandiose sense of self-worth. You know the type here. If you could buy them for what they're worth and sell them for what they think they're worth, you would make an absolute fortune. Number 3, easily bored. Every day requires a new adventure, and if it's really, really dangerous, all the better. Number 4, pathological lying. The motto here is, why use the truth if a lie will do? Number 5, manipulative. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. One way or another, this person is going to get what they want. Number 6, absence of remorse, no feelings of guilt. Also known as, no, actually I'm not sorry. Number 7, shallow affect. Okay, this characteristic is actually not very self-intuitive, but it's pretty easy to summarize. Shallow affect is a lessened or suppressed emotional response. Number 8, lack of empathy. This is not to say the person can't fake or emulate empathy, having seen it in others, but again, the authenticity won't truly be there. Number 9, parasitic lifestyle. This goes beyond Cousin Eddie, who polished off the last bag of Flamin' Hot Funyuns. This person takes your credit card and rents a bus from Topeka to Vegas and then runs the tables with your plastic. They then buy themselves a new Tesla using your 401k, and they generally bleed you white financially. Number 10, poor behavioral controls. These people have violent, harmful, and reactionary style behavior. Think of persons that have almost reflexive irritability, inadequate control of their anger. Think of people who are often verbally abusive and threaten those other people around them. Number 11, promiscuous sexual behavior. Well, this one is actually pretty clear. Number 12, early behavioral problems. Number 13, lack of realistic long-range goals. Similar to grandiose sense of self-worth, this is not just people who think they are far more substantial than they are. This is those people who think they can achieve things that are far beyond their actual grasp. Number 14, irresponsibility, or simply doing dumb things. Number 15, impulsiveness, doing dumb things fast. Number 16, lack of willingness to accept responsibility for their actions. This can be characterized as doing dumb things either fast or slow, but not owning up to them regardless. Number 17, excessive short-term marital relationships. There's probably some really good material on e-news in this category. Number 18, juvenile delinquency. Number 19, revocation of parole from prison. And finally, our last factor here, number 20, the multi-skilled criminal. This person is the Swiss Army knife of crime. Okay, that was a lot. Let's summarize those key characteristics before addressing a few more points. When trying to determine if you're nose to nose with a psychopath, there's a lot to look for. Here are some of the traits that will really stick out. Superficial charm. This person will have the cheesiness turned up to 11. Grandiose self-worth. You see a jackass, but they look in the mirror and gaze upon a thoroughbred. Pathological lying. This person makes politicians and Pinocchio look like Boy Scouts. Manipulative. If you feel you're a pawn in their plans, watch out. No remorse. They hurt you and could not care less. Lack of empathy. They hurt you and respond like a droid. They don't seem to get that people have actual feelings. Parasitic lifestyle. Your bank account is dropping like Tesla stock after an Elon tweet. Poor behavioral control. They have a hair-trigger temper. And finally, lack of willingness to take responsibility. No matter what, it's not their fault. There you go. Those are the key traits you'll need to keep an eye out when you're on your next Tinder date. Before we close out and hit our bonus factoid, let's address just a few more highlights regarding how to spot a psychopath. Well, if you're playing the odds, psychologists and scholars believe psychopathy occurs more frequently in men than in women. If you're looking at incarcerated men, the numbers jump up drastically to somewhere around 30%. In a social setting, a psychopath may try some of that superficial charm we mentioned earlier. The words they lavish upon you may feel wildly over the top and just not fully aligned with the emotion or expression that you're reading from them. In short, the audio doesn't match the video. Moreover, during this social setting, the line of conversation they pursue may be way too personal, especially during first encounters, and in all likelihood, that's on purpose. Psychopaths look for weakness and vulnerability, and that actually gives us a nice segue. Psychopaths tend to specifically approach the vulnerable, the elderly, the emotionally frail, and anyone they feel can be exploited. Lastly, and we have saved the really bad news for the end, many doctors and scholars feel that psychopaths are born, not made. That is, their character and psychological traits are due to inbuilt aspects of their anatomy. They are the way they are, and it is not certain that any amount of therapy will actually make an appreciable difference. So, now you know what to look for, and as G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle. Finally, we have arrived at our killer factoid. The question was, where do most psychopaths hang their psycho hats, or which state has the highest prevalence of psychopathy? You guessed it, it's the Beltway. A 2018 study by Southern Methodist University economist Ryan Murphy concluded that Washington, D.C. has the greatest concentration of psychopaths. Well, we warned you up front. We said you would not be surprised, and I know you are probably laughing right now and also not surprised. Well, hey, look, that's it for now. Keep your eyes open and your head on a swivel, and thanks for tuning in to The Well-Oiled Mind. If you enjoyed today's video, then give us a like and a subscribe. Take care, and remember, knowledge is its own reward.